be going over a Christmas arrangement with fresh greens and houseplants. Okay, so some materials you'll need for this project. So you'll need a cute little planter. I went with a cute snowman hat. I thought for the holidays it's very fitting. You'll need a plastic liner, some Oasis, a good pair of shears, and then some fresh greens here. We've got these here, and then we also got a really cute little anthurium to put in the middle of it. So let's get to it. So I already cut this down to the size that I needed it to, but this stuff, it cuts really easily. You let it soak in water for about 5 to 10 minutes. And then you really just want to make sure it's saturated, because this is what keeps the greens from drying out indoors. So like I said, I already cut it down to fit inside of here. So there's that. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to press this into the top a little bit just to make an indent. So you guys can see there, kind of a little indent. And I'm going to just go in there and press it in. And then also kind of take the knife to kind of get the extra floral foam out of there at the end. So you're going to want to kind of just scoop it out. Okay, so the anthurium, you want it just to fit nice and snug in there on top. And if a little bit of the lip kind of hangs off, that's okay, because you won't be able to see it with all the greens in there. So we're gonna set this aside for now with the pot. Okay, so we'll set that there, and then we'll start cutting our greens. Okay, so let's get into the fun stuff. So first things first, I have this ready to go. You can see here I have like the little place for the anthurium. All right, so the trick with the greens is you need to cut them at an angle, because that helps them drink water from the Oasis. So just go ahead and put that in there. And the trick to this is, whenever I really design anything for the store, I work in odd numbers. And that's just like an old design trick. You just work in odd numbers. I don't know why, everything looks better that way. So here I'll go 1, 2, and then I'll add a third one in there. Okay, so this is what it starts out as. Okay, and then the next thing is to just kind of do the same thing, just 3 and 3 and 3, and then you can go to 5s, you can go to 7s, you can kind of just mix it all in there. And it's kind of just a one-by-one process. I mean, really take your time with this. Make sure you find pieces that you think that are attractive in there, stuff that kind of just really fills out the area. And so what I like to do is I like to take the plain Jane green stuff first, just to kind of get a layout. And then I'll go in with the more decorative stuff with like the pine cones on it. And then what I'm doing here at the ends, for example, this little piece here had like greens that went all the way down. I just kind of plucked the bottoms off. That way they would fit into the Oasis a little bit more, and just so they're a little bit more secure in there too. Okay, and then kind of take a step back, take a look at it, see where is a little bit not as full as the other sides. Like these sides here, I'll probably add a couple more in here, and then we'll get into the next layering part. I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna add some of these. Now with these, since these go all the way, like the little needles go all the way down to the bottom, I'll just kind of strip these off a little bit. Just kind of pull them off. They come off really easily. But just so you have a little bit of a piece there to stick into the Oasis. Because otherwise, if you were to try to stick this whole thing in there, it would probably just end up falling out. Again, the odd number, we're gonna do 5 of these for the next little layer, just to really add some texture in there, and then just to make sure it's spread out nicely. And if they're shaped like this is like bent a little bit of a ways, you can kind of try and work them a little bit straighter so they're not so closed up. Okay, and so this is what it looks like from up top. Top view. So we have all of these greens here, and then these are kind of just spread out within here to give them a little bit of extra texture in there to fill it out. Now we're gonna add the stuff with like the little pine cones, the little bits of yellow in there just to add a little bit of color. Now, if you wanted to go ahead and pre-cut your greens, you could. That's totally fine. It's totally personal preference. I like to just cut them as I go, just so I can find a piece that really just fits in well, and I can just kind of customize it to fit where it needs to go, where I need that little bit of greenage. So, okay. So with these, I've added 5. So again, another odd number. And as I'm adding in the greens, the additional greens, I am just layering it up a little bit further than the first set of greens that we put in. It looks like it needs some help back here, so I'm just gonna add another one in there, and that's okay. You don't always have to stick to the odd numbers. It's just kind of a rule of thumb. And so for the little decorated greens that we have here, I like to alternate those in between each other just to make sure that we have a little bit of yellow, a little bit of pine cone here and there, just so that we have a good equal balance. And if you place a green in there and you don't end up liking it, you can pull it out. Just be careful because the Oasis is not very forgiving. So once you put something in there, it's kind of got to stay. Or if you do a second one, make sure it's a little bit longer so that it fills in that hole nicely. Otherwise, it's just going to fall out. So this is what it looks like from up above. As you can see, I'm kind of starting to get taller or into the layers a little bit higher. Just trying to layer them in there. And see how we have like the yellow pine cone, yellow pine cone, yellow pine cone. So. And I did notice when I was showing you guys that the sides are a little barren for my liking. So I'm just gonna go in real quick and stick extra of the first green that we put in there in the bottom. So I'm gonna get some of the longer pieces. Some of the longer pieces in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and set the anthurium in the little place that we made for it earlier, just so I can get a better idea of how full we need to make the top. So I'm just going through and I'm cleaning up, getting all like the little dead pieces of leaf off. Okay. So that's what it'll look like. The top now looks like that. As you can see, there's still that oasis showing up top. And that's where we're gonna go ahead and stick the rest of the greens in there, just kind of layering, making sure everything's nice and full, and making sure we can't see any of that oasis either. And so now the pieces that I'm gonna be putting in, I'm gonna make sure that they stand up a little bit, just so that they can fill out this space and give it a little bit of height too. And then now we're just gonna go back in with this stuff, put a little bit more texture in there, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna alternate where we put these. See here, when we put these in, we're just gonna set them in between the ones that we put in there earlier, just to make sure we have that texture all throughout the arrangement, just to add a little oomph too. Now, so I'm gonna take this, I'm gonna cut these, and I'm just gonna do the same thing. I'm gonna add them in there. These are like my favorite thing to add to the arrangement, just because they add just another texture that's not already in there, and it really just fills in the spots that are not as full. So I like to do a couple down here in the bottom. Let's see, just gonna use a texture right here. And all it is just a matter of taking the arrangement, taking a step back, looking at it and saying, okay, this is where this needs something else. The more you do it, you'll develop an eye for it. So with practice, makes perfect. So. Okay, so this is what it'll look like when it's all done and complete. Thanks for joining us, and have a great holiday season. Safe travels to everybody. We'll see you next time.